Something was moving in the shrubs in front of Tan Son Nhut Airport. It was 1 a.m, and Winnie had stepped off a plane 20 minutes ago. Her connecting flight had been held up by a summer thunderstorm in Hong Kong, and now her plans were all awry from the start. Leaving the air conditioning of the baggage claim, she had felt her edges soften immediately in the humidity. The yellow-uniformed taxi drivers, like half-spilled yolks in their cracked-open car doors, stretched out their necks in unison as they followed the movements of the new passengers exiting the airport. Winnie had seen one of them stare at her, and when she accidentally returned his eye contact, he opened his mouth to call out before abruptly closing it again, and Winnie knew he was debating whether to use Vietnamese or English on her. She'd turned and started walking away from the taxi queue before she could hear his final verdict. And now she was standing in the dark, on the shorn grass of the small, half-neglected greenery by the motorbike parking lot, watching the leaves on this low bush quivering strangely. Just one bush. The rest of the shrubbery was still, and there was no discernible wind that could be responsible for the shaking. She contemplated finding something to prod it with, wondering what would come out if she did, wondering what she should do now. Winnie leaned on the handle of her suitcase. She was supposed to be staying at the house of a great aunt she'd never met before, but doubted that the old woman was up at this hour or would appreciate Winnie arriving at her home in the middle of the night. All Winnie had been told about the great aunt was that she was a former nun, was still deeply devout, and, if she missed her 5 a.m. mass, deeply irritable. Her curiosity had gotten the better of her. Winnie took a step toward the rustling shrub and bent over to pull back a branch and peer inside. But before her hand could make contact with it, she heard a sudden, low hiss from somewhere within the leafy shadows, a sound like an angry radiator. Winnie jerked away. It could have just been a jet-lagged auditory hallucination, but if it was not, it would be better if she and whatever was inside the bush remained strangers to each other. Winnie quickly turned and began dragging her suitcase toward the smeary yellow streetlights of Tân Binh. The farther she got from the airport, the cheaper the hotels would be, so she planned to walk for at least 10 blocks. Whenever she passed a hotel that still had lights on, she would look into its lobby and see how big its couches were in order to determine whether or not it was too expensive. The pay-by-the-hour sex motel was fully illuminated and conspicuously couchless, but it had a yawning motorbike guard sitting on a stool and a woman with her hair set in pink rollers behind a desk and a large glass-paned refrigerator full of beer. Winnie didn't see the sign advertising an hourly rate or the condoms for sale next to the bags of beef jerky on top of the fridge until she was already halfway through the door and the woman in curlers raised an eyebrow at her. But when she hastily calculated that it would cost her less than $5 to have a room until 6 a.m, she decided to stay. She would have plenty of cash left over for the taxi to her great-aunt's house, and she would arrive right as the old woman was returning from church. The receptionist took Winnie's passport, gave her a room key, and sold her an overpriced can of ba-ba-ba from the beer fridge and a bag of jerky. The motorbike guard took the handle of her suitcase, about to offer to carry it up the stairs for her, but when he realized how little it actually weighed, he returned it unchivalrously to Winnie. The polycarbonate clamshell thumped hollowly against the stairs as Winnie dragged it behind her one-handed. Buying a suitcase so large now seemed like an overconfident gamble she had made back in America. She had assumed that one day she would fill all of this space, that her life here would provide things worth keeping, that she herself would become someone worthy of being kept. But now she feared that she had jinxed herself. Her arrogance had earned her the ire of a fickle god, and her life would continue to be as empty as her luggage wherever she went. Winnie was 22. She had brought with her a passport, 2 sets of clean clothes, and her own flesh. All the rest she would acquire. The key opened a windowless room that smelled like dried sweat. Its walls and floor tiles were the color of the inside of a lip, and there was a large mirror mounted on the ceiling above the bed. The wheeled suitcase drifted on its own over to a far corner. The truth was, she had paused by the airport bush in the first place because she was considering folding herself up inside her hollow bag and hiding in the hedges until morning. Winnie lay back on the mattress and opened the beef jerky. She spent her first meal in Vietnam staring up at her own reflection.